plan and concept behind it. So Ryan, the floor is yours.
Sure. So as Joe mentioned, we're here to talk about the Oklahoma State Community Energy Plan. It was, the city received a grant from the Board of Public Utilities, the Office of Clean Energy. 46 communities were lucky enough, fortunate enough to receive the grant for a total of $820,000. Egg Harbor City met the distressed community criteria, so they received the maximum grant amount, which was $25,000, which obviously helps advance your planning effort. We worked quite a bit with the College of New Jersey, their New Jersey Sustainability Institute. Oh,
Yes.
yeah, sorry, didn't see that. Thanks for bringing it up. No, it didn't show up down here. I'm glad you said it. So anyway, they prepared the application for the grant. It provided a list of strategies and then initiatives under those strategies for goals, things that you could pursue that would assist the municipality and the community as a whole. The initiatives are all intended to be actionable. It wasn't, just talking about things. It was things that you could move forward with, ordinances, actual planning or documents you can move forward with and take action on. And each goal had to outline specific steps of how to achieve them and outline next steps of here's how you would go through the process. A lot of it, again, was developing checklists, ordinances, things that would provide benefits, real benefits, tangible benefits to the community. Ultimately, the city selected initiatives from 5 of the 6 strategies that were outlined in the application documents. So the strategies were to reduce energy consumption and emissions from the transportation sector, accelerate deployment and renewable energy and distributed energy resources, maximize energy efficiency and conservation and reduce peak demand, reduce energy consumption and emissions from building sector, to support community energy planning and action with emphasis on encouraging and supporting participation by low and moderate income environmental justice communities, and to expand the clean energy innovation economy. We've picked initiatives from all but number 6. So the first strategy, I didn't list through all the initiatives. There are almost 40 of them. I listed the ones that we selected. So that the city went with adopting supportive zoning regulations for EV charging infrastructure, improving municipal fleet efficiency, installing public EV charging infrastructure. And then there were some things that we came across as we went through the process that weren't initiatives outlined in the program, but we thought would be beneficial and further the goal that was identified. So the first was adopting supportive zoning and regulations for EV charging infrastructure. In the current land use ordinance, EV charging didn't exist. It wasn't envisioned. It's not discussed. It's not a permitted use. So anytime we get it, it's kind of an anomaly at the land use board. It's also now required by state law for some projects. So they have to do it, and we don't let them do it. It's a bit of a conflict. So we wanted to define exactly what EV charging is, where you can do it, how you can do it, how you can handle it, and then make it a permitted accessory use. I don't necessarily think that for-profit lot with just parking and chargers is what's envisioned here, but a complementary use. If you have a business, you can put chargers there, public spaces, things like that. So as through part of this process, as an appendix to the final plan, there's actually an ordinance with proposed revisions for consideration by the council in the future. For the next one, improving municipal fleet efficiency. So we went through, we got a list of the municipal fleet, and we sort of recommend that Public Works and the police department and anyone who has fossil fuel powered equipment consider electric alternatives as they need replacements, as vehicle leases run up and they reach their end of useful life. There are grants to offset the initial cost differences and to offset the cost of the supporting infrastructure. If you get an EV car, you need an EV charger. So you can help bridge the gap on the cost of the upfront cost differences for each of those opportunities. And ultimately you end up saving money. Each of them has a payback period. Those grants really just help narrow the gap and make it a little easier to get there. So the recommendation was really for those who do the fleet maintenance, who do the fleet orders, to consider and evaluate EV alternatives and alternative fuel alternatives anytime that equipment or vehicles need to be replaced. And the graphic is actually a new model of a police cruiser that would be an EV. Install public EV charging infrastructure. So the city obviously has a lot of sites that are under their control that would be ideal for EV chargers. As we went through this process, we identified the transit hub, Philadelphia Avenue, potentially municipal building, all as places where people come and leave their vehicles, or maybe would stop along the way if somebody needed to stop and charge on the way to Lake City or back in Philadelphia. Maybe they stop on Philadelphia Avenue and go to a restaurant. So it's a draw to the the surrounding area. We identified multiple funding sources, some of which can be combined. So at this point, we just having sites targeted and funding sources identified. We're at the cusp of being able to develop plans, electrical plans, site plans, for where to locate them, how to fund them, and then we'd be able to move forward and solicit quotes or bids for EV charging infrastructure. And then the non-initiative related goal is not obviously EV related at this moment in time, but we identified mass transit as just a more efficient mode of transportation. The city has the advantage of having a rail stop and 2 bus stops. So we felt it was important to continue to enhance connections to there as the city has continued to pursue grants like Safe Streets to Transit grants to continue to extend pedestrian connections to the rail and transit, and to actively promote. A lot of people don't even know. In fact, as we went through, some people who encouraged mass transit themselves didn't know some of the routes existed. So just actively promoting and letting people know that these things are here, these options are here, and you can take them. And it's cheaper and it's more efficient, more fuel efficient, less greenhouse gas emissions. So it's sort of a good benefit all around. Next was strategy 2. We picked adopting supportive zoning and permitting for private solar, adopting zoning and permitting for community solar projects, installation of municipal renewable energy generation. And then we identified a non-initiative item, which would be a community solar project on municipal property. So the city's land use and development ordinance, it says very little about solar. It kind of defines it. It doesn't permit it anywhere. It doesn't provide setbacks. It doesn't discuss any of the nuances. It doesn't permit ground mount solar installations. So we proposed an update to the ordinance to better define solar, to allow it as a permitted accessory use. And as part of this process, we actually prepared an updated ordinance, which again can be considered by council in the future. Adopting zoning for permitting of community solar. So a community solar project is typically a larger sited project. It's not currently a permitted use in Egg Harbor City anywhere. And to be frank, it's not compatible with all zones. You wouldn't want one in a residential zone necessarily. But we think that the city should consider allowing for it in industrial zones and in areas without sewer service, because the density of development that's allowed in non-sewer service areas is like 20 acres per single dwelling unit. And solar panels don't need water or sewer. So it's kind of a good fit for those areas where development is otherwise sort of impeded. And this is another one we prepared some ordinance revisions for council to consider. Installing on-site renewable generation. We've had a couple different proposals over the years. We considered an option for remote net metering, but found that to not be viable because the other sites were so low usage that by the time we averaged it all out, there just wasn't sufficient usage to justify it. So at this point, I think we need to lock down siting parameters for locating at City Hall. City Hall is the largest energy consumer that the municipality owns and controls. So that's sort of the low-hanging fruit, if you will. So once we lock down what the siting requirements would be, request updated proposals both for a PPA model and for a purchase model. Given some new incentives that just came out, I think, the last couple of weeks, really. It will probably make more sense to purchase now than it did previously. Previously, we had met and discussed that a PPA would probably be the best option for the city, but now you'll literally get half off of the upfront cost with the incentives that are available. So we would obviously just request updated PPA and purchase proposals, review the incentives, make a selection of what's the best path forward, and then move the project forward to construction and start offsetting your utility bills here. So An item that we identified that was not in the plan, because it's probably not a great fit for all municipalities, was a community solar project on municipal property. And the property that we focused on was the transit hub site. We have a large paved area. There's no municipal electricity usage. There's no real usage within the park, just a couple of lights. So you can't do a net metered project there. So you have nothing to offset. So carports and a community solar project seems like it would be a very good fit there. I believe the next round of community solar was just opened up 2.5 weeks ago, something like that. So we would suggest that the city, consider applying to this round of community solar applications, and move forward and attempt to prioritize city residents so that residents who don't have the option to add solar or other renewable sources to their own homes could buy into that project and still, utilize clean energy and save on their utility bills. So the next strategy was to maximize energy efficiency, conservation, and reduce peak demand. We focused on the municipal building. So we think that the first step that the city should take is to request a local government energy audit. BPU will hire a subcontractor and do that at no cost to the municipality. They will target older, outdated technologies and identify efficiencies and calculate payback periods to show you what's economically viable. Atlantic City Electric has Atlantic City Electric and South Jersey Industries both have direct install programs. So you could replace some of your older inefficient equipment with more efficient lighting equipment, et cetera. Next strategy was to reduce energy consumption and emissions from the building sector. And the one that we kind of honed in on was requiring developers to complete a green development checklist. So when someone comes to the city for a development application, they have a lot of opportunities to save money and get incentives themselves, but a lot of developers don't even know that those things exist. So if we prepare a green development checklist and just make it mandatory that they just go and fill it out, they don't have to answer yes to everything, but did you go through? Did you know these incentives exist? Did you know these opportunities existed? Just to try to highlight incentives that they might be eligible for, things they could benefit from, ways that they could cut costs and save energy. So that's another one where we have prepared a draft of the actual checklist and an ordinance that City Council could consider going forward. Last strategy was to expand the clean energy innovation economy. And the goal that we focused on was to adopt energy storage policies. So again, the ordinance did not envision energy storage as being a viable or necessary entity or thing that needed to be done. So we really need to update the ordinance to reflect that that's a thing that's happening now. The state's actually requiring, I think they have 2,000 megawatts as their target goal by 2030. And the picture there is actually at the ACUA. They have a 1 megawatt battery storage on their site. So it does exist and it exists locally. So it's really to offset renewable power sources need batteries to provide some continuity. When the sun is out, you're generating power. When it's not, you're not. So you need something to just sort of smooth out the ebbs and flows of renewable power generation. And that battery storage is one alternative, but it's something to help ease that transition and make it more functional. So currently, battery storage is not permitted in any zones in the city. So again, we prepared some ordinance revisions for consideration by council in the future. So let's see. So each of the actual initiatives and strategies has a next step section, which identifies what is the next step? What is the next thing that we do? How do we actually move this forward? As I mentioned in the beginning, each initiative is intended to be actionable. We don't want to just talk about something and say like, yeah, maybe you could do that. It was, ways to move this forward and ways to implement these strategies. Most of the initiatives that we went through required very little monetary investment up front. Almost all of them had a very reasonable payback period. And then again, we really focused on, instead of trying to bolster the plan and talk about all the things we could do, we focused on generating ordinances, generating draft language that the city could actually adopt and implement all of these things. So that is really it for me. Special thanks to the Board of Public Utilities, the College of New Jersey Sustainability Institute. Tracy Woods sat with us through probably a dozen meetings or more, helping us through the process. Stephen Bass, who I don't think is there anymore, but helped us through the process. Councilman William Galloway attended all of the meetings as well. And then Jody was sort of pulling it together.
Thank you, sir. At this time, anybody from the public have any questions or concerns, inquiries, anything like that? All right, first we'll open it up to the public.
Well, I think this might be that have to be added to the plan.
Sure.
Community outreach. We want to outreach to the community to encourage the residential and commercial usage of the programs here. We have a gentleman here. Alex Haber from Lansing Electric and Tom Hatch, who's been here before, comes after this. And both organizations have programs that are practically free for, well, they're free for residents, but they have a lot of incentives for commercial businesses to upgrade their equipment and so forth. So I think that should be included in that.
Yeah, we had, I remember as we went through, we identified there were like, I don't know, maybe 20 to 25 initiatives that we were focusing on some degree. Our portion of the plan really focused on the ordinances, the development side, all of that. I know you were working with the Green Team on some of the other initiatives, so I'm happy to fold them together in the final version of the plan.
Initially, you said there was like 7 strategies, and that 6th one you said we didn't. I can't really quick. What was that one?
So that one, so each of the strategies had, well, I shouldn't say each, almost all of the strategies had multiple initiatives underneath of it.
Right.
So there were, I think it was 38 total initiatives. I think we ended up with 8 of them or 9 of them. So the one strategy that we did not pick an initiative from was the longest one to read. Supporting community energy planning and action with emphasis on encouraging and supporting participation by low and moderate income and environmental justice communities. So that there just was not an action item under there that we identified as actionable by the city at this point in time.
So, I mean, I do have a program that matches that, but I can't see how the city would take action on it. It's provided for us, you can't force people to participate in it.
Right.
But there is because the town is census tract be moderate income, and automatically qualify for some really great programs.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see when a city can act, how they can act.
Yeah, we discussed trying to market and promote things like that, including them in mailers, including them, postings on the bulletin board, things like that on the city's website with direct links. But yeah, there's not, a single actionable item that we could sort of pick out of it. That's why.
Anybody else from the public have any questions, comments?
I just think that's the biggest thing, is to get this information out there to the public, because they don't know and they don't understand.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of great programs out there that, those companies and others offer. It's just,
fantastic with their patents.
yeah.
It's amazing.
I have some. Oh, go ahead.
I'd just like to urge that there is a person in Egg Harbor City who I consider to be the most expert person on this general topic, and you should use him, and his name is Rick Dubby.
Okay. Appreciate that. All right.
Good advice.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I would just like to speak a little bit on the program I represent.
Sure.
So I'm with Atlantic City Electric, and you touched on it earlier, but we have our small business direct install program. And basically what this does is this allows small businesses to replace any piece of electric equipment in their facility for up to 80% incentive. So if they have a $100,000 project, we have the of this project. So it's an incredibly powerful incentive program for small businesses, not only helping them save money and over the long run reducing as much carbon ambitions they have, but really helping small businesses to make these necessary equipment changes, but also reducing their monthly energy use and also helping them afford it upfront. So if anyone has any questions after this, I'd love to talk to anyone about the program, or if anyone knows anyone who's a small business owner or has any commercial space, I'm sure even the space here would qualify for the program. We do anything from changing light fixtures to heating and cooling systems. So I just want to put that out there. If anyone has any questions, I'd love to talk after this about the program.
Yeah, if you could definitely, introduce yourself and get communication with our CFO. And
Oh,
share
yeah.
that information to the contact.
Yeah, and facilities like this, so anything with the municipality or school, they're automatically going to qualify for the maximum incentive.
So,
Yeah,
We
that
will
would
be working with Lake City Electric to have a breakfast meeting, business community, probably the last week of January. So we're going to be sending out invitations to churches, any organizations, and the business community to come to this breakfast. Lake City Electric has agreed to kick in for the food. So we have a full breakfast at the diner. And we're also going to be hosting another meeting for the general public for the residential portion that Tom has for South Jersey. Yes. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that the federal government has released climate pollution reduction grants. The minimum amount you can apply for on the federal level is $2 million. And the state also has funding through the same source, and their grants are going to be $250,000 minimum. We are eligible to apply immediately for the state grant because we did this community energy. So I think at this point we should prioritize what we think we could tackle right away and probably apply for a grant and not have any expense at all. And the thing about this stuff is that it saves energy for the community. It's going to reduce their costs. It's going to help the city reduce our operating budget. You know, if we could get community solar and we don't have an electric bill anymore, that would just be great. So it's important that, and people think that, you know, the green team is just a club that, you know, does neat stuff like neat flowers and gardens, but I have a printout here that I'd like to pass out to the council. And I'm going to this way. This is the list of stuff that Sustainable Jersey.
Can I comment, make one comment first?
Yeah.
I did speak with Bert Lopez the other day. He did update me on the meeting that we had. I suggested to him that a good way to reach out, we have two ways that you can reach out to businesses if you include other groups in Harbor City. One of them is the Neighborhood Preservation Program. They routinely reach out to the businesses and the Economic Development Corporation. You'll just turn your head straight back. That lady right there. He's the one that you want to talk to about that. So
Okay.
maybe you can give her your contact or vice versa. And, you know, she talks to the businesses all the time.
And sorry, what was the first one?
Neighborhood Preservation Program and the Economic Development Corporation. And I guess the same with you. I don't know what you're, I
I'm
don't know.
strictly residential personally, but I could put people in contact with our commercial side.
we're getting close to our regular scheduled time for our council meeting. So does anybody from up on council have any questions or anything they'd like to inquire or share?
Yeah, both gentlemen from Alliance Electric and South Jersey. Best way to contact you if anyone's looking to get a hold of you for these programs?
Oh, yeah. Do you want me to say it out loud or give it to
Gift cards.
I'm new. I don't have my.
So
Is there a website or anything like that?
Yeah. So my email is yeah. So my email is ahaver@trccompanies.com. And I also have my phone number. I could give that as well. Yeah, which I think for this place, but if I think that would be fine.
your phone number will be on recording, so just be aware of that.
Okay, yeah, but any small businesses out there, feel free to give me a call. The more calls, the better.
Some information.
I have a card, but it has all my contact.
Sure.
My phone number is 445-289-3286. Yeah, feel free to text or call. I'm happy to talk about the program and send over any information I have. And I also have some printouts here I'd love to give to anyone who's interested as well. In the program.
Appreciate it. Nobody else on council or public has anything. Ryan, thank you. Phenomenal job as always.
Thank you.
If we don't mind, we'll take a 5-minute recess.